Hey everybody, this is Perch, and I want to come clean with something a little bit. Coming clean is probably the wrong word, but I want to explain one little aspect of certain things. I think people who listen to this show plenty, they definitely have picked up on the fact that I definitely get trolling isn't exactly the right word, but sometimes I do little experiments to see what will happen. One of the bigger ones, it took a long time, but somebody finally, I think, sent me this article and was like, "Are you doing this?" Is this idea? I just found it so absurd that a technique for making a more money, getting more attention, getting more engagement on YouTube was to mispronounce words and names, and that people would come in to correct you and create a whole little cycle. I thought that's the dumbest thing I have ever heard. And sure enough, where I came to this is that having worked in two things. One, on my own account, sometimes I say things weird, and that I chalk up to the fact that I travel a lot, been to a lot of other countries. I've lived in other countries to some extent. I do know languages beyond just English, and that has definitely warped me. Smarter people, I think, could have these different languages swimming around in their head, and they keep it all in track. But I morph with what's going on, and it's definitely screwed up some words. I feel bad for what I'm probably doing to my children with that. But the bigger thing is that working in a shop and running a shop and talking to customers, you hear every crazy way to pronounce names. Bill Sienkiewicz is one of the most hilariously. I just people come in and they go with whatever they think that name sounds like, and it's comedy. It's just it. I don't know why that was entertaining for me. No, I wasn't sitting there laughing at the customer, but one thing that I do is I find it kind of obnoxious behavior to correct people. So when somebody would come up and say Bill Skavankovich, I'm like, cool, you're buying a comic. I'm not going to sit there and go, actually, sir, it's Sienkiewicz. If somebody asks me, like, hey, how do you pronounce that guy's name? Then I'll throw it out there. But generally, I mean, I hate people who do that. They like, rah, 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 rah. Just drives me crazy. So anyway, this one of the experiments I did. And I thought it was absurd. And damn it, if no, I say definitively, you're coming up with a YouTube channel, try it for yourself. You'd be shocked. It brings more engagement to your channel. I don't get it. I do not understand that part of human nature. I'm fascinated. I think in another life, in a different multiverse, I would have been a psychologist. I think I have a lot of interest in trying to understand user behavior and kind of why people do the things they do, and it's fascinating to me. Just kind of this piece. In a product world, I love guest research. I love user research. I love the kind of seeing user behavior. It's amazing to me the things you learn about stuff. But I did this. Coming clean, like I said, I don't like Arby's. It is absolutely true. I'm not a fan of Arby's, and a lot of that's chalked up to, I'm sure, bad experiences. Because I think that any good, any not good, any fast food place, any of them, Burger King. Like I have a friend who hates Burger King. Why? Because ate at Burger King twice, had food poisoning both times, and if you sit on the toilet evacuating everything that you've eaten for several hours, it tends to turn you against that establishment, and that's what happened. So it is. That's not weird. That's not unnatural, and it's also not indicative of everything. I'm sure there are great Arby's places out there. I had some bad ones, and that combined with it's weird, the stuff that burns in your brain. When I was younger, I saw this little kind of expose documentary. I don't remember, but for whatever reason, they're picking on all kinds of food, including like the McDonald's chicken nuggets, and how the actual chicken nugget shape is formed. It's shaped like there's not parts of the chicken that actually look that way. They're created in these shapes. And for whatever reason, as a kid, that was just like, oh, good for them. They're being creative with their food. I don't know. That didn't strike me as weird. But the stuff on Arby's really, sank in. It had a definite impression on me. I, I just I've dealt with that forever. This idea of kind of how meat works, and again, none of this is that weird when you have a butcher, or you have kind of a meat processing plant. There's different cuts of the meat, and the different cuts of the meat go to different locations, or they're sold differently. Somebody was like, "That's not how it works." No, that's absolutely how it works. There's different cuts of beef, and different cuts of beef go to different places. That's how it works. Yes, that's not weird. That's normal, and it's not. I mean, otherwise you'd be having like the best parts of flank sent off to Dairy Queen to make burgers, and I mean, just randomly. That would make no sense. So, what was interesting to me is I was curious. The coming clean part of it was I don't like the place, but I don't feel very passionate about it. I don't feel like number one, if somebody else likes Arby's, I don't think less of them as a person. And number two, I if push came to shove and I was hungry and Arby's what was there, I would eat there. I wouldn't gnaw off my own arm. I mean, I need food like anybody else. But this is how. So the interesting part of it was the reaction was funny. Most people, and this made me happy. It felt like it suddenly felt like I was in a comic shop again, arguing over who was stronger, Hulk or Superman. It felt like good-natured people sticking up for what they like or what they didn't like, and it was like a good old brawl like we used to have that I loved. And I think that is really a key part of comics. This idea of we like different things and we defend the things we like, and we can get a little bit salty with it, but there's no heat. There's no real animosity. It's people who are picking a side and then running with it. And that's fun. And that's how it should be. And that was my experiment of how many people would be like that and how many people would become, lunatic nutcases and and either defend or attack Arby's like from their soul. And I deliberately thought that this is an absurd thing. I threw out a couple others in there. Nobody took the bait on the Orlando airport because it is ass. I mean, let's be honest. And all the rest. But I was curious about it. And I did it in the context of also talking about the term SJW, and just kind of these things that people bring up. But if I look back at comics and I look back at, what was a comics community? A comics community, I mean, everybody's, I'm sure, got their own terms for that word, but one of the very positive things about comics was that you had a lot of comics, a lot of things, and you had this rivalry in some cases between Marvel and DC at the company level that was mostly good spirited, every now and then a little bit more heated, people trying to poach other employees and other things, but it was a rivalry that then the fans got to take sides on, and you felt like you belonged to something bigger without it being truly a fight. It wasn't turning people against each other. It was getting people engaged to rally around something and enjoy it. And if you've ever been in a comic shop where people are debating, this version of Go, like another one that I remember, I had old school comic fan, all on the side of original Ghost Rider, and I had newer comic fan on the side of Danny Ketch, newer Ghost Rider, and kind of this Johnny versus Danny kind of fight. And those were great conversations. There's definitely, really aggressive, really strong, passionate feelings for each side. But nobody got into a fist fight. Nobody called the other a Nazi. Nobody said, well, if you don't like, if you like Johnny and you don't like Danny, well, I guess this comic's not for you. You should just leave. There was none of that crap. We were tolerant of opinions that were different from ours, but it wasn't like we also weren't living in some kind of weird nirvana. Every now and then, when this gets discussed, people portray getting along as like simp behavior, or that people are gonna, just oh, we can't say anything now, huh? Or how can I possibly see eye to eye with this person who doesn't, see things exactly the same way I do? I can't even treat them with respect. They haven't earned my respect. And I like to put it, the reason why I used Arby's is I wanted to put in perspective of something absurd. Can you imagine going up to somebody and say, "Oh, you don't like Johnny Blaze, Ghost Rider? Well, you're a human garbage monster. Fuck you." Can you imagine? The person saying that would be quickly labeled a complete and absolute a crazy person. Like that you would, if you were in a store and somebody got actually heated to the point of like, I can't even, I can't even be in the store with you. I'm taking my business elsewhere. I can't tolerate this difference of opinion, whether it's Johnny versus Danny, or Arbys versus liking Arbys or not Arbys. Anyone who would behave that way is crazy. Is crazy. And by the way, there is no real feud between myself and Zach over Arbys. Just spoilers. If you read that, if you saw this stuff and thought this isn't good natured, you're out of your mind. Sorry. Yeah, sorry to spoil it for you. But isn't it? This is something that's been taken away from comics, because people aren't even trying anymore to have these good-natured debates or these feuds when it comes to comics. It's too dangerous. It's too tough. It should be extremely natural for there to be a interesting, engaged debate, fight, fun argument, fun fight over who is the best Captain Marvel. Monica Rambeau, Carol Danvers, Janice Vell, Marvel, forgetting one. Why am I forgetting one? Anyway, but why is there? Why can't that debate take place? It's normal for that debate to take place. But from the people who work in comics to the people who are fans in comics, you can't have that discussion. There is no world where you can go in a public forum and start debating who's a better Captain Marvel, Carol or Marvel, without you being a misogynist or a whatever, a cuck. Like you can't do it. And the fact that that's been taken from us, the fact that we've lost that, that is harmful to comics. The people who should be working the hardest to bring that back are the publishers and creators, because that kind of fun engagement, that kind of people who are willing to sit around and have a debate, have an argument, have a spirited conversation about which iteration of a character is better than the other character. There were debates I saw between Rhodey or Tony as the better Iron Man, and nobody called anybody a racist. That didn't come into the conversation at all. That was a better time. It was better for comics. It was better for the engagement. It was better for people. And if there's, how sad, we got a better way to get the community going through social media, through online, where now you can interact with way more people. And then we promptly gave away that coolest aspect of comics. And it was one of the coolest aspects, the ability to go and talk to other people and debate who was strongest, who was toughest, who was coolest, who could run faster, Quicksilver or Flash. Flash probably. But how pathetic that we willingly gave that up. And now there's you by the way, you want to try another crazy experiment, go in there and suggest getting that back. Go in there and suggest that, hey, what can we do to restore this? And you will get a lot of people in comics, pros in comics and fans, who will say, I'm not going to listen to that other side. I have no interest in this both sides stuff. I have no interest. I won't even have the conversation. No, won't even entertain an idea that we could have this debate. It's not. I won't even talk to the other side anymore. And granted, a lot of this politics has done this to us, where it's not enough to just disagree politically. You have to completely shed your life of everyone. But everyone should look at this as absurd. And that's why the Arbys example is a good one. If we can't debate and have a good time debating which Ghost Rider, which Iron Man, which Captain Marvel, who's faster, Superman or Flash Quicksilver, whatever. If we can't do that, we have lost a lot. We have lost the plot entirely. And we should be mocking the people who say that's impossible, because that should be mocked. That's ridiculous. We can't talk about, if we can't sit around and have a debate if who is the best Iron Man without it being tied into social or racial issues. That's ridiculous. And it, rather than try and understand that side, we do need to actually move to the, all right, that's just stupid. If you can't communicate on that level, then you got to head on back to kindergarten, first grade, where we taught kids how to share Play-Doh, because that's the mental level we're at here. I think we've lost something major for comics in this, and it's worth our time to try and get it back. And it's worth our time to start drawing a line to say, you know what? Yeah, we are going to be able to playfully argue about if Arbys is good or not without people completely losing their shit. But maybe you disagree, and that's fine, because that's what healthy people do. So let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe, of course, and thanks for listening.